go. All right. So welcome and thank you for joining us today. My name is Danielle Bursk. I am the Director of Community Partnerships and Artist Services for the New Jersey State Council on the Arts. I'm really excited to be here. This is one of my favorite community partnership programs that we do with our partners at the State Department of Environmental Protection. We have a couple of folks from the DEP on the call today. Becky or Devin, would you like to say hello?
Hi everyone, my name is Becky Hill. As Daniel said, I work at DEP.
Hi, I'm Devin Blair. I also work at NJDEP with Becky.
So we're really excited about this partnership. Just like Danielle said, it's been a really fun opportunity for us, something very different than what we're used to doing, and it's been incredible. So looking forward to it.
Thank you guys. Also with me from the State Arts Council is Steph Nurbeck. She's our Artist Services Associate. Steph, do you want to say hi?
Hey all, welcome. Glad to be here.
Thank you. So that's who we are. We manage this program together as partners at the table. The State Department of Environmental Protection received federal funding for this program and has managed the process to request proposals from and review and approve community-based partner organizations who then will be given funding to engage with artists to create community art that talks about climate resilience and specifically coastal flooding. So these are our partners for this call. We call them CBOs, that's community-based organizations. They are the partners on this. They're going to be the host sites for the artists, as well as essentially the organization that will be commissioning the artists. And we do have representatives from all three of our CBOs on the call. I'm wondering if I could ask each of them to say hello and just say a little bit about their organization. Maybe we could start with the Camden Community Partnership.
Hi, I am Vidra. I am from Camden Community Partnership in Camden, New Jersey. And we are a nonprofit organization that does development projects in the city of Camden, all sorts of development projects. And two of our most active branches are around environment and sustainability, as well as arts and culture, which is my primary project line. So we're really excited about this project because this brings those two strategies together in one. And we have found over the past couple of years that it has been extremely effective for us to use art in conveying environmental messaging. So just happy to be here.
Thanks, Vidra. Next, Joyce, I know I saw you there. You might be on the phone. Do you mind saying a few words?
Nope, I'm happy to say hello. My name is Joyce Hagan. I'm the Executive Director of the Atlantic City Arts Foundation. We were lucky enough to be chosen last year as well to participate in this project, and equally lucky to be paired with a great team of artists who created the project Water Table, which is still alive and well and being visited daily by folks who visit the Absecon Lighthouse. And we're looking forward to creating a completely different opportunity for Atlantic City again this year. Thank you.
Thanks, Joyce. And last but certainly not least, Rebecca from Four Corners Public Arts.
Hello. Oh, do you guys see me? Hi, everybody. I'm Rebecca from Four Corners Public Arts in Newark, New Jersey. A little bit about Four Corners Public Arts. We're actually a partnership of about 5 organizations, which is Newark Arts, Newark Downtown District, Invest Newark, RBH Group, Paramount Assets, and the City of Newark. And we were founded in 2019 to address areas in our Four Corners Historic District that had been traditionally under-maintained, and just to bring these spaces to life through public arts and directly engaging with the community to create them. And so since 2019, we've erected around 30 projects in these areas. And a lot of them are projects that are research driven, are engaging people that live in these areas to be a part of the art making or to program the space afterwards. And so we're thrilled to be a part of this project and to be one of the 3 CBOs.
Great. Thank you all so much. I really appreciate it. And I know that you can speak much more eloquently about your organizations than I can. So that's great. Moving on, the goals of this project, there are a lot of them. You heard some of these organizations talk about why they're excited to participate. But the essential top level goal for this program is to utilize art to communicate with New Jersey communities about the risks of coastal flooding. Now, there are lots of different messages that could be provided around that and lots of different ways to provide those messages. And that's why we're so excited to engage with artists to help with that communication. We know that art can reach new community members, involve community members in different ways. Each of our CBO organizations has a community that they work with. They have partnerships in that community, but by engaging with artists, we hope to bring new community members to connect with those organizations themselves, as well as with the artist and the artist's work. And of course, as the State Arts Council, we love the idea of offering support to artists and providing exhibition opportunities to them. So this project is one of the many ways that we seek to do that throughout the state. Just a brief reminder, I'm going to ask everyone if you could please mute your microphone so that we don't have any feedback noise. So the first question is, who is eligible to apply for this program? Adult visual artists who either live in New Jersey or are within 100 miles of the state border. So you do have to be an adult to be able to sign a contract. That's why we want you to be able to do that. Obviously, support for New Jersey artists is very important to us at the State Arts Council, but we do recognize that coastal flooding of, for instance, the Delaware River does not just impact the New Jersey side of the river. So we are opening this call to artists who live within 100 miles of the border because those artists also may be experiencing the same impacts that those on the New Jersey side do. You can apply as an individual artist, or if you are working with another artist or a small team of artists, you may apply as a team. So how do you apply? So if you're on this call, you probably have already seen our links to callforentry.org. That is the only way we are accepting applications for this program. So you can't email me, you can't call up one of the CBOs and pitch them your great idea. To keep things fair for everyone, we're asking you to apply through Call for Entry. Call for Entry is free for artists to use. You essentially have to set up an account for yourself and upload images of your work to that account, which you would then use to respond to this call. Your applications must be submitted no later than midnight. Oh, that's not right, sorry. You really think I would have updated the date on here? The deadline is actually January 24th, not March 8th. I'm terribly sorry about that. The deadline is correct in Cafe. It's just not correct on my PowerPoint. I will give you a hint. Midnight on January 24th, it's midnight Central Time, not midnight Eastern Time, because the folks at Cafe are in Central Time. So those of you on this webinar have an extra hour if you know that little secret. We cannot grant you any extensions to the deadline. We will receive a lot of submissions for this call, and it will take our team, the jurors, the CBOs, a while to go through everyone's proposals. In order to get through all of the proposals, do our own internal work, and respond to everyone who's submitted in a reasonable time, we can't extend our timeline, so we can't grant any extensions. And every artist can only submit one proposal. I know you all have a lot of great ideas, but send us your greatest idea. So this is the #1 question we get. We get a lot of questions from people who say, well, I want to know more about Atlantic City Arts Foundation, or I'm not quite, what does Four Corners Public Arts in Newark want from an artist? When you go into the call in Cafe, you will see this right here, this little link that says View Site Details. If you click on that link, it will open up a separate document. And that separate document is going to tell you information about each of the CBOs. It's also going to tell you what art forms they are interested in entertaining proposals on. And it's going to give you some more information about their place in particular. So if you were to click on that link, for instance, you would learn more about the Atlantic City Arts Foundation. You'd find a link to their website. You'd also find out that they are open to accepting proposal ideas from artists in all disciplines and art forms. You'll find out on that same link, Four Corners Public Arts in Newark, some information about them, and that they are interested in visual arts proposals for a painted mural only. They're not accepting applications for performing arts at all. And the Camden Community Partnership in Camden, again, you'll find information about the organization, and you'll learn that they're interested in a visual arts proposal, two-dimensional, but it could be asphalt art or other street level art making and or 3D works that somehow works in conjunction with storm drains in Camden to draw attention to the importance of clean, open storm drains in reducing urban flooding. There are links to each of the websites for the organizational partners in this document, and the same information is there that every artist who clicks there will see, so that we have everyone's getting the information in the same place and in the same way. But if you don't go into the call and click on that link, you won't actually see that document. So how to apply? Once you're in there and you've decided you want to go for it and you hit apply now, there are going to be a series of questions. Some of them are just demographics, and that's for us at the State Arts Council to make sure that we're being truly inclusive in our processes. So we want to know some information about you. We're also going to ask for a couple of narratives from you. So these will be documents that you'll type up and then upload either as a PDF preferably or as a Word document. The first is just a quick bio about you. This is something we will use for promotional purposes if you are selected. It is also helpful for the jury to see it and get a really quick glance about what your experience is in public art making. The second narrative is the more important one. That is the narrative proposal of no more than 2 pages, which describes your proposed project. The easiest way to think about this is the who, what, when, where, and how document. Because we're not able to provide stipends for every artist to put together a complete public art proposal, we're really looking for your ideas and some more details around your ideas, but we don't expect you to submit a fully fleshed out proposal. That said, we do want enough detail that our community-based organizations can decide if your proposal is something that they're interested in working with you on. You're also asked to provide some images of your work. These you will have uploaded into your CAFE account, and you'll be able to select which ones you'd like to include with your application. Generally speaking, we do want to see some images of your finished work. And if you have diagrams, sketches, some sort of general outline idea that's more visual than narrative about your idea, you can include that here as well. If you're going to include sketches, ideas, things like that, please mention in your narrative, as I described here, please see uploaded sketch number 1 for a design idea. You can, So the budget and the narrative proposal. This is also important to know as you're putting your narrative together. There's a $7,000 stipend provided. Each community-based organization is giving funds, of which they will give $7,000 to the artist to cover your supplies, your fees, your materials, travel, anything that you need to realize the proposed project. So if you propose a project that costs $20,000, that's not realistic because we have $7,000 for each project. But it's important that you know that as you think about what you want to do a little bit of research and figure out if this amount of money will cover all the materials that you need, or how you might be creative and fulfill your vision within this budget. So some examples here, because I get a lot of questions about the narrative proposals themselves. I said who, what, when, where, and how. So a not so great proposal is something like, hey, here's my amazing art. I want this place to put it up all over town. I'm going to drop it off. They're going to install it and it's going to be great. There's no community engagement really described in there, and it doesn't really show the artist working in partnership with the organization and the community. So a much better proposal would be that Perhaps this artist wants to work with the kids from the town Boys and Girls Club, and they're hoping that the community organization could help them make that partnership happen. Then they want to lead the kids through a visioning event and come up with image ideas. And they will make large prints and projections based on the images that they put together, thinking about the children's ideas. This artist then would propose a schedule, has some idea about where these pieces could be installed in the town, and describes really clearly what work they will do and what they would ask the community organization to do. And that's going to be important in your proposal as well. If you're hoping that that CBO will help you arrange a kickoff event or connect with a local community organization, please put that in your narrative proposal. If you're expecting that you're going to have access to a hose or a projector or chairs, or you're hoping that they'll photocopy something for you, that also would be helpful to put in your proposal, because many times it lets them know what they can and can't do, and they can think about if there's a way to fulfill your vision in partnership with you that might involve small tweaks. So if you need a hose, but they don't have a hose at their building, but they do have access to a fire company that'll come and fill something with water, then they can make note of that and decide if that's something they want to undertake in partnership with this artist to realize the vision that you've proposed. So here are just some examples of different kinds of art that deals with coastal flooding as a result of climate change. Obviously, there are a million different ways to communicate messages, but I thought it was important just to note that everything from, wheat pasting, light projection, sculptures, and in the instance of the HOA market, making really site-specific participatory art can convey the message. There's no one right way, and there's no one vision that any of the CBOs is looking for. They really want to hear your great ideas. So how will the selections be made? Because we know there will be a lot of great proposals. We're going to use these criteria. They are also listed in the call for artists in CAFE. Really, we're looking at something that's artistically excellent, but will further the project goals. We really are expecting that there will be the potential for positive experiences and interactions with the communities that are to be engaged. We want to know if you've done community-based work before. And also, this is an important one, safety and environmental considerations of the proposed project. We're not going to be able to say yes to any projects that aren't safe or that would cause environmental damages. The CBOs want to be interested and able to partner with you and work with you, so that weighs into the jury decision, as well as, is the project you've proposed feasible, or is it something that they could see getting close to doing the way you want to do it, but maybe with a few changes from their end, it could happen. Most importantly, your project needs to be clear. They need to be able to read what you propose and understand what you're proposing. So clarity of the proposal is also part of the criteria. So I did get the deadline correct on this slide, at least. This is the timeline. We have already released the call for artists. That's why you're all here. January 24th is the deadline. It's going to take us about a month to go through our internal process and make the selections. Immediately following the selections, when everybody is notified, we're essentially going to send an email introducing the selected artists to the hosts and the hosts to the artists. And then you guys are going to take off running and start figuring out how to develop that project and implement that project and plan for it and put your timelines together. It is important to note that the goal is that these projects will be realized and out in the world this summer and into the early fall. So our goal is by June 1st that your project would be developed and starting to be displayed. If you're doing work with the Boys and Girls Club or some local community organizations, that would happen around this time period. The goal is to get as many eyes as possible on your projects. And this is the time of year when people are out in the world. So we're hoping that that will help them see your work and experience the messages that we're sending home. How to get help. So it's important to note that Steph and I are happy to provide support for you if you have questions about the call itself, about the process, about the program. Here's our information, and I'm going to put up a slide in a minute with this information on it again. You can call us, you can email us, however it's easiest for you to get in touch with us. We ask that you reach out to Steph and I, and not to the CBOs themselves or to the DEP. We're going to be the central question and answer source. If we don't know the answer, we will reach out and get the information for you. If you are having trouble using Café, you got to reach out to Café. They have a great artist Q&A site. They've got videos and things like that that should help you in using Café. But I'm going to ask that you reach out to them for assistance, because while we use Café to issue our calls and for our jury process, we're not experts on the artist applying end of it, but Café is. So that concludes our presentation. This is an artist Q&A, and we want to answer your questions. We're going to go in the order of the chat. So I will just ask that everyone be considerate of the fact that we do have a group of artists. Everybody would like a chance to ask their question. So in some instances, if your question requires either more research or a long answer, I may ask you to email me and we can talk about it offline. That said, we have all of our CBOs in the room here, so some of them may be able to answer your questions right here live. So I'm going to start, top of my check-in list is Leon. Leon, do you have questions? Leon, if you're talking, you might still be on mute and we can't hear you.
Oh, okay. No, I couldn't, it had clicked out and stuff. I guess what my main, I think it's fine, but basically what my main concern was, like, say if I'm gonna probably submit for a mural, but if I don't know the location, then it's hard for me to design a mural.
So
And then
that's a great question. And let me answer that one before we get to your second one, because I've had this question already, but from a few artists by email. We're not expecting you to do a full-on design for a mural without getting paid. We believe artists should be paid for that work. What we are asking you to do is submit examples of your previous work, and then perhaps some ideas that you might have that pertain to the messaging that could be adapted to the size of the wall. Does that make sense? I think you're on mute again, Leon.
yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, I think that's fine. And then
All right, you had a second question?
yeah, I guess my second question was like kind of, I guess, concerns also, like, about, say, submitting a mural, like, you know, if the wall would have to, I guess probably would have to be in a certain scale, because, you know, of the cost of, say, like a lift, it would make it to where this project wouldn't be financially feasible, I think.
Sure. So Rebecca, do you want to talk at all about what Four Corners Public Arts can bring to an artist in terms of support? I know your organization has a lot of experience doing this kind of work, and that may help those who are interested in proposing a mural as they think about what they could do with that budget.
Sure. Thanks for handing it off. So I think, first of all, the concerns are really valid. For $7,000, if you know, you really have to think about scale and you know, what some of the needs might be based on the site-specific space. For right now, I would say a concept and a conceptual approach to the actual application is the best way to go, just to assure that you are not spending a lot of time creating something that is going to be reviewed and waiting to actually get commissioned for the rendering. Our organization, because of the partnership structure, we have quite a few resources and partnerships that are already that are there to handle some of these major expenses, because we work with the city of Newark. Things like permitting and street closures are normally waived. We have quite a few material sponsors and relationships with lift companies. because we work also as an artist advocacy, we are not going to put you in a position where you are not going to be properly compensated for the work that you are proposing to do. And so I think that whoever the selected artists is, there will be a number of conversations about how we can best support the production of the mural and make sure that you have the needs that you need to create, and nothing that's outside of the scope of what would be beneficial to the artist and to this space to assure a successful piece.
That's great. Thank you, Rebecca. Leanne,
Thank
does that help?
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
No problem.
Great. Yeah, thank you both. All right, next, Adam. Adam, do you have questions for us? I'll remind you, you may have to unmute yourself. All right, Adam, third and final call. All right, well, Adam, if you having technical difficulties, just hang on, and at the end you'll have an opportunity to ask your question. But in the interest of time, I'm gonna move on to the next person in the chat, which is Susan. Susan, do you have questions?
Not sure if Susan is still with us. Lower in the chat, there's a section where she explains she'll have to leave early, but does have a question. So we can make note of that. And you
Thanks.
can, yeah.
I
contact her,
appreciate that.
hopefully.
Yeah, I'll reach out to her individually and see if we can follow up for her question.
Great.
Okay, Victoria, do you have questions? Victoria, who is masquerading as Laura, that's who is in our chat next, if that helps.
Yes, so she just wrote a message. It says she is having technical difficulties and no questions at this time.
All right, great. Thank you, Steph. I appreciate you monitoring the chat for me. Sherry Tobias. I'm not sure if it's Sherry Tobias. It's all as one word in your name.
Yeah, it's Sherry.
Sherry, do you have questions?
I actually don't have a question, but I did want to just mention that when you're in cafe, like this is more for the artists, when you're in cafe, if you don't finish your application, you won't be able to see it like saved in the future, like after the call's over, because I applied last year, but I didn't finish the application. And so I thought I would just go in and, update it, but they don't let you do that unless you finish it and submit it. So I just wanted to let people know that.
Thank you, Sherry. I would not have known that either. As I said earlier, we don't really go in often from the artist side of things. So that's a good tip to know. And I'm going to add that to my list of things for all of my artist technical assistance workshops to mention. All right, let's see. And Laraj, I do see your hand is up. We will get to you, but we're going to go in the order of the chat. So Adriana, do you have questions?
As of right now, no. But if anything, I will be emailing.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that. I guess it means we're doing a really good job of presenting the information if there aren't too many questions. Let's see, next on our list, Barry. Barry, you want to know about a conceptual video.
Yes. I would, the idea is to present what the problem is, or potentially will be, but I would also like to include possible solutions and how the residents who were affected by the flooding might either participate or know that there is a way that the potential disaster, in quotes, could be avoided. And
Great.
how
So,
do you get that information?
so I am going to actually ask if Becky or Devin from the DEP has any feedback on where an artist might get some information about the solutions to coastal flooding that they could put into their concept idea.
Sure. I mean, solutions are really specific to an area. So I'll put some links in the chat to some DEP websites that might help you locate, I guess, some suggestions or ideas the state has. But really, it's hard to have. We don't have a concrete list because it really depends on what you're looking to do. If it's restoration of a natural area or protecting against flooding that's happening on the high tides with either through nature or through a structural solution. If you're interested in raising, elevating, there's such a variety, but I'll throw some links up in the chat to see if that's helpful.
Thank you so much, Becky. And Barry, I would also encourage you, if you're going to propose a unique conceptual video idea, to include in your proposal how you would expect to engage the community with that video. Whether it's, engaging them in the making of it or in the showing of it. I think that would be a really helpful thing for our CBO partners to learn in your submission. So we have no more names in the chat, but we do have someone who has their hand raised. I'm going to try to pronounce this correctly, but please correct me if I'm wrong. Laraj?
Yeah, you said it correctly.
Oh, yay. Good. Thanks.
I think as a follow-up, I'm working with a group, and I believe we wanted some information on storm drains and how they work, and solutions for helping to get the community to understand how the pollution affects our planet through storm drains. And then also, I wanted to know, so when we're applying, we do a basic application, and does it get submitted for the partnership that we're trying to partner with, or once it goes in, or once it's elected, does the partnership reach out to us?
So that's a great question, two great questions. I'm going to start with your second one, which is when you apply in CAFE, you are given the option to check the CBO that you are interested in working with. All three of them are listed there. There's also a fourth checkbox, which is any CBO. So some artists might have a proposal that they feel could work equally well with one or more than one of the CBOs. And if that's you, you can check that box. So you're given the option to select one or select all when you're submitting. As far as the storm drains problem, I'm not sure if my DEP folks or my Camden Community Partnership folks feel better able to respond to that question. So I'm going to open it up and let you guys speak up if you have feedback on that.
So from DEP,
I can respond. I would definitely be interested to hear from the DEP folks as well. Yeah, we've done in Camden, we've embarked upon a campaign to educate people about what happens when your water goes in the storm drain. So basically we have a combined sewer system throughout most of the city, and this is something that we're trying to remedy. So when it rains or when you flush the toilet, the water all goes to the same place and then has to go out to be treated. But when these drains, the storm drains that you see in your street, when they get backed up with trash and leaves and stuff like that, then the water from the rain doesn't have anywhere to go, and it builds up in the street and it runs off into the water. It has to go somewhere, right? So it just ends up running off the land instead of going into the pipes that take it to the treatment plant. And this is an environmental hazard because it's picking up oil and waste and trash and all the other stuff along the way. So we're just trying to educate, and then that's one of the things, right, that contributes to poor water quality, but it's a big contributor. So the idea is that our art project would help people to help artists to learn a little bit more about what that is and why that's bad, and then convey that message to the larger community and help to curb littering and trash and stuff like that.
That's awesome and so well said. Thank you, Vidra. Becky or Devin, do you have anything to add?
So to get some details, I would need to reach out to our water resource program to identify specific resources or information. So sorry, that's outside of our direct office. So I don't have any details and I don't want to misspeak.
Great. So Lavraj, if Vidra's answer piqued your interest, but you want more details, I'm going to ask you to shoot us an email and then we will connect with the folks at DEP and get some resources and send them back to you. If you feel like what Vidra told you was what you needed to hear to inform your proposal, that's fine too. So I see
Thank
we have
you.
Jeremy White with his hand up and then we have Betty Beaumont in the chat. So we're going to go with Jeremy first and then we'll get to your question, Betty, okay? Jeremy, whenever you're ready, you can unmute and ask us your question. You're still there, Jeremy? All right, well, maybe we'll switch up the order. We're going to go, Betty, to your question, and then Jeremy, if you're still there, we'll come back to you. Betty?
Yeah, hi. I was wondering how many projects will be selected.
That's a great question. One project for each of our 3 CBOs. So we'll be doing 3 projects in this round.
And if I don't have any specific public art, quote unquote, experience, but I've done very large installations in the landscape all around the world. And they've been individual projects though. And I'm just wondering if those kinds of projects would qualify for me to propose something.
Absolutely. Part of our goals for this project are to make it accessible for artists at different levels and with different amounts of experience to have a supported opportunity in creating public art. And I do believe if you want to submit some images of your previous work that's in, outdoor spaces or larger spaces with a brief bio, that would be great. If you have done any work where you engage with the community, we certainly want to know that, but it would not rule you out if you haven't.
And I'm curious, are New York City artists eligible for this program?
So New York City is within 100 miles of the border of the state of New Jersey, so they are, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I have a residence in New Jersey, but I'm just curious.
Yes.
Okay, well, I think I need to just do something and then we'll see. Yeah, thank you so much for having this session.
No worries. And if you have follow-up questions, you can feel free to reach out to Stephanie or myself.
Excellent.
I want to point out that Becky from the DEP has put some resources in the chat. So thank you, Becky, for pulling this information together. So these are some information about potential solutions to address climate change that may help inform some of your proposals. And Barry, I think that this specifically addresses the question that you had.
And it might be way more detailed than you were hoping for, Barry, but it's a planning matrix. We have it ranges anything from local ordinances that can be passed to wildlife action plans. So there's a lot of information on there. It's 75 pages worth, but it'll give you a good idea of possible actions.
Thank you so much. And the nice thing about having so many different possible actions is that an artist could just select 1 or 2 of those potential actions as part of their communication strategy, right? All right, well, I don't see any more questions in the chat, but I don't want to end too prematurely. Jeremy, are you back? Your hand is still up? Or does anyone else have, oh, Jeremy, what's your question?
Sorry, okay, let me just jump to the question. So I think this might only pertain to the Camden and Atlantic City CBOs, but in the PowerPoint, I noticed that in the sort of dichotomous examples of a good and bad proposal, one of the examples was like flyers or poster prints in a window. And with that in mind, I was wondering how public the art was intended to be. And so was there a desirable range from like a window, which is maybe public when you walk by it, to something that's like in a vacant lot, which is like visible to everyone. So I was just wondering how public the art was intended to be, just to get an idea.
I think that's a great question, Jeremy. I'm going to give a short answer, but then I'm actually going to ask Joyce and Vidra if they could also speak to that. My short answer is that the more public, the better. Joyce, do you want to answer? And then Vidra?
I would also say that's true. Part of what was really rewarding for us last year was the number of visitors who actually did come to see the project. The community, as well as we're a large tourism town, so we had people from all over who were being educated by the great project that we had. And so those opportunities, as great as you can manage with the vision of your project, I would say, is how you should look at it. The more,
I was gonna say the same as the first comment, the more public, the better. I think that I would think about it as how much interaction can there be with the project? Like, can you touch it? It's a good start. And whereas like behind the window, it's harder to actually interact with it. And I think the window example also leans towards temporary for me, because who knows who owns the store or when they're going to want to take that out, or what the status of the window is. Whereas a more public project would require us to like secure the location for a longer time and work that way. So yeah, the more public and I guess interactive, the better.
Thanks so much
Okay,
to all of you. Jeremy, did you have any follow-up questions?
Oh, I guess one follow-up to Vidra's comment. So is how important is permanence? I couldn't really discern when in your last statement. Would you prefer it to be, is there a preference for permanence between
It's a
any
good
of the
question.
scenarios?
I think that we're leaning towards more permanent. That does not mean that you have to prove like durability over a certain length of time. It's not that for, you know what I mean? Like our structures are good for 40 years. It's not like that. It's just the idea that we're not planning to take it away.
Great, thank you, Vidra. And I would just venture to add that we don't expect that for $7,000, any artist would produce something that's considered permanent. The budget isn't huge. It's certainly enough to undertake an exciting, publicly engaging public art project, but we don't expect we'll be getting bronze sculptures for that kind of money or anything permanent as far as that goes. So we do have one more question in the chat. Jeremy, you're good? All right. Betty wanted to know if there was a place that we could view the projects from the last time. Devin, you've dropped a link in the chat. Does that link respond to the question?
Yes, so on the link, you're going to find information on our risk communication projects. That link specifically goes to the past art projects. Right now, there's just descriptions for each one. Each card on that page goes to a website that the CBO provided to us last year. So for example, Atlantic City, they provided a link straight to their water table project. They have amazing links on there, some videos, things like that. The rest of the sites currently go to just the CBO's current homepage. So you can kind of look through those. Right now, Becky and I are in the process of updating that website to show basically a little link underneath each CBO logo that will hold photos and videos of last year's projects. That I would like to try to get done soon. Hopefully I'll be able to get it done before the cafe application process closes. I'm not 100% sure, but right now those are the locations where you can find some of the images. You can also visit our social media accounts. There's some photos on there.
That's great. Thank you, Devin. And that's really exciting to see it coming together like that. I'll also mention that Becky also dropped a link in the chat about the Atlantic City Arts Foundation has a dedicated site right for the water table project itself.
Which Devin had just covered, also the link off of the site she provided goes directly to it. So you have multiple ways to get there.
Perfect.
Miss
There's a
Wa-
follow-up. Oh, go ahead.
Could I just speak to, I think it was Jeremy who asked about the permanence and the how public question. Last year when we viewed these projects, the variety and I mean, the concepts and the ways of presenting the projects that people had designed were just incredibly creative. And as we all were evaluating them, I think that we had to look at all of those categories of how permanent would it possibly be, how much visibility could it possibly have, how strong is the message in terms of resonating the information about the risk communication program. And so it's hard, it's not, I would encourage artists not to think about one aspect of that, but to try to make sure that they kind of address all of those things in their application and make them all as strong as they can, because it's making the choice is not easy. Because of all of these reasons for doing the project and all the ways that we know pretty much who our public is that's going to be viewing these. And so you just have to balance the wealth of all of those things and determine what's going to work best for the site and for the state of New Jersey with their investment in the program.
Thanks so much, Joyce. That was really helpful and great to hear. And I will echo that it's really hard when you read through all the amazing proposals that artists submit to narrow things down to selecting one. And I can recall vividly, there were a few that were outstanding submissions that weren't able to be selected because, for instance, there was safety concern or there was an environmental concern. And those two, specifically those two criteria, safety and environmental concerns, are places we can't bend and be flexible, unfortunately. So keep that in mind as well. So we have one final question here in the chat. It's a follow-up from Barry Blackman, and he wanted to know about what form community participation should take. I'm actually going to turn that question back to you, Barry, because that's what we're hoping the artists would tell us. How does the community engage with you, the artist, in the creation of the project, or how do you anticipate the community would engage with the work when it was on display? That is part of our evaluation of the work, is what is the potential for new communities to get involved? So for instance, the Atlantic City Arts Foundation has a great community of people who are interested in art in Atlantic City. But if you propose a project that can bring new community members in to also get engaged with the work and their organization and Atlantic City and environmental protection topics, that's a real benefit. There are definitely options for community participation. In the site details document I talked about earlier, we do identify some communities that our CBOs are already engaged with, but it will be up to you to tell us how you anticipate community engagement would be part of your proposed project. I don't see any other questions in the chat. LaRoge, I'm guessing you just left your hand up. So does anyone else have any final questions or comments you'd like to make? No? Okay, well, hearing none, I'm going to wrap us up. I'm going to encourage you, if you have follow-up questions, to reach out to Steph or myself at the State Arts Council, and we'll get to the bottom of it and get the information that you need. I'm going to encourage you to log into CAFE early and often and really evaluate the call for artists and the site details document. We hope it answers most of your questions and makes it easy to come up with a great proposal to submit. And I'm going to encourage you to get your great proposal submitted before January 24th. As I mentioned earlier, we cannot extend the deadline, so you have until midnight then to submit your great idea. Thank you, everybody. I want you to have a great day, and I look forward to seeing your proposals. Bye.
Thank you.